Honey, where's the can opener?
For the beer, you don't need a can opener.
What'll I use, my teeth?
Look at the cans. Those are the new pop-top cans from Schlitz. You just pull, pop, and pour.
Hey, that's great.
Uh-huh. Honey, what are we going to do with all that beer?
Invite the neighbors.
Hey, let's get together with a glass of Schlitz, a friendly glass of Schlitz. Real gusto in a great fight. Beer, Schlitz.
The beer that made Milwaukee famous, now in pop-top cans.
I just love to open them.
Contract negotiators in the United States basic steel industry has now reached agreement on a 21-month contract. It is the first contract agreement ever reached with the basic steel industry in this country with no strike, or at least a strike threat. And its expiration date of May 1st, 1965 ensures steel labor peace during next year's presidential elections. 4 days of demonstrations urging a fair housing bill in Ohio ended in failure late last night. A committee of the Ohio House killed the fair housing legislation for this session. It can't be brought up again until the next General Assembly session in 1965. Yesterday afternoon, core sit-in demonstrators blocked the path to the office of Governor James Rhodes. They were asked to clear the doorway, and when they refused, plainclothes state troopers forcibly removed them. All week, core demonstrators, either outside the governor's office or in the state legislature itself, had urged passage this session of a fair housing bill. Now, core spokesmen say they will work with individual mayors and labor leaders in attempting to break down the housing barriers in Ohio. President Kennedy's call for a 5-point civil rights program promises to touch off at least some congressional fireworks. In the Senate, the Assistant Democratic leader, Hubert Humphrey of Minnesota, has announced that 34 Democrats and 8 Republicans have joined as sponsors of a package bill that contains all of the president's proposals. Here is what Senator Humphrey said about Mr. Kennedy's civil rights message.
The new program represents what I believe is a minimum legislative program necessary to close the citizenship gap in this country, to provide full citizenship opportunities and rights for every American. The country needs and wants effective civil rights legislation, and I pledge my efforts to obtain it here in the Congress. And I predict that the Congress will approve the basic outlines and provisions of the President's program.
President Kennedy has now followed up his broad civil rights wants with 3 key manpower bills. Together, they would cost an estimated $400 million. Their aim is to train and develop skilled manpower and also to expand unemployment opportunities for youth. Now for news of sports, here's Earl.
The U.S. Open golf tournament got underway in Brookline, Massachusetts today, and high winds and occasional showers added to the woes of the late starters. But early and late starters alike discovered that while the course is on the short side, it is loaded with hazards and high grass. The defending champion, Jack Nicklaus, today had a 76, which is a 5 over par. At the end of the first round, Bob Gaeta, a pro from Detroit, who has never won a major tournament, was out in front with a 2 under par 69. Among those early starters, Jimmy Clark on the first tee ended with a 74. Kel Nagel was off with an 81 today. Bobby Nichols finished the first day's play with a 74. And here's the favorite, Arnold Palmer. Arnold finished with a 4 over par 73 today and complained that he had made only one good putt all day. Actually, we should have said a 2 over par. Here's J. Hebert. He was in the same threesome, also scored a 73. And Doug Ford, getting away on the first tee here, was in a similar situation also with the 73. And here's that threesome as they go down the fairway. Gary Player, always dressed in black, he says it gives him added strength. Turned in a 74. He said the greens were perfect, but he was not. Walt Berkimo here had a card of 72 on the first day's play, and Art Wall Jr., a one-time Masters champion, came in with a 73. Actually, in second place in the tournament behind Gaeta is Jackie Cupid of Tyler, Texas, who had a 70. At 71 are 4 players, Lionel Hebert, Tony Lima, Julius Burrows, and Davis Love, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Some of the other scores you might be interested in, Slammin' Sammy, who's never won this big one but hopes to, is still up there in a contending position with a 74. And Middlecoff had an 80 today. Gardner Dickinson had a 76. And we, of course, want to give you that left-hander score. Bob Charles had a 74. In women's golf, Marilyn Smith has taken the first round lead in the women's Western in Madison, Wisconsin. She shot a 72 today. The defending champion, Mickey Wright, had a 78. And the coaching situation up at Tennessee has seen a change, and as Bowden Wyatt has been released as the head coach of the Volunteers, and Jim McDonald, who's been his assistant for the last 8 years, has been named the new head coach, and Bob Woodruff has been named as the athletic director. Now taking a look at Major League Baseball. In the American League, the New York Yankees have stretched their lead to 2 full games over the White Sox by beating the Senators tonight, 5-4. Yogi Berra had his second homer. Bridges was the winner. The Minnesota Twins beat the Chi Sox by a score of 9-4. Pete Ward, Harmon Killebrew, and Earl Batty swatted homers with Cott the winner. The Boston Red Sox, still sizzling, defeated the Detroit Tigers, handing them another defeat. The score was 8-3. Dick Stewart and Chuck Schilling had homers there. Early was the winner over Jim Bunning. And the Cleveland Indians defeated the Baltimore Orioles 11-8. Max Alvis, grand slam homer, was the margin of victory. Walker was the winner, his 6th of the year. Hall was the loser. Over in the National Loop this afternoon, the Chicago Cubs defeated Houston 5-0 as Billy Williams slugged a couple of homers and Jackson got his 8th win of the year. The Milwaukee Braves tamed the Pittsburgh Pirates 2-1. Denny LeMaster hitting and pitching the Braves to victory. The Cincinnati Reds defeated the Philadelphia Phillies 11-1. Well, the San Francisco Giants have signed up ex-Auburn pitcher Joe Overton to a bonus baseball contract. The amount was not revealed. It was reported to be substantial, however. He flew to Salem, Virginia today to wait assignment by the San Francisco Giants. And in another exhibition game tonight, the Yankees, after playing their regular scheduled contest, lost to the New York Mets by a score of 9-4. And about 50,000 fans were on hand for this. It was a roaring crowd, and it seemed that most of them were for the lowly Mets.
This is Aurora, a new 2-ply bathroom tissue. 2 colors rolled into one. Pastel outside, white inside. Imagine. There's pink on white, yellow on white, white on white, and lavender on white. New, unexpected, delightful. Pastel outside, white inside, and all so soft there's nothing to compare it to. Even Aurora's package is different. Inside the clear plastic film, one roll is ready to use, the other neatly wrapped to stay fresh till you need it. That never happened before. Aurora. 2 layers of softness, and one is purest white.
Alabama lawmakers today enjoyed a day off from their strenuous legislative activity, committee activity of the day before. They were speculating now on when and if another filibuster will break out in the Alabama Senate. None of the regular House or Senate committees met today. The only activity was a harmonious session of a special committee that supervises the Alabama Department of Examiners. Alabama legislators have been generally vehement in their denunciation of President Kennedy's proposed civil rights program. And here's a sampling of 4.
Mr. Rogers, what is your reaction to President Kennedy's civil rights bill?
Personally, Norman, I feel that it's a blatant attempt on the part of President Kennedy and the central government to further erode the rights of the individual American citizen, as well as state rights and personal freedom. I think that this is motivated solely by political expedience and a desire to obtain the blocks of a minority vote. I think that all of us here in Alabama are opposed to it, thinking people, both black and white, and I personally am very strongly opposed to the bill.
In answer to the question, what do I think about the President's civil rights bill, I'd first term it a civil wrongs bill, and I'm surprised and disappointed that the President of these United States has not long ago been awakened to the fact of the conspiracy that is about to engulf us. In the name of doing something to produce civil rights, he is destroying or attempting to destroy the rights of individuals, be he black or white. I do think that if this measure is adopted, that it will require a police force, a federal police force, or an armada unequaled anywhere in the world, and will in effect produce a federal monopoly that we have never seen before, and will begin to write the end of this great country in which we live. I'm sorry that the Negro and some white people are being duped by those in such subversive organizations as CORE and other organizations to hide behind the man's color of skin to take away the basic tenets. I hope that the President reconsiders his position, and I do hope that those senators and representatives from all over the country will kill this bill dead.
This appears to be quite a power grab on the part of the President, and it is a dangerous situation when the President continues to try to gain more power.
It's my feeling that the civil rights program, or so-called civil rights program, that's sponsored by President Kennedy, has gone the last mile now in the violation of the constitutional rights of our people. It's my feeling that President Kennedy has a tiger by the tail and can't turn it loose. It's obvious to him and to the rest of the nation that he has lost the South and many other parts of this country where people believe in constitutional government, and he is trying to consolidate his Negro vote. But I think that he will find, as did the people in Cambridge, Maryland, that it's impossible to negotiate with these people. And I doubt very seriously if he's going to be able to satisfy the Negro. And it's my fervent hope that this move on the part of President Kennedy will completely wind him up in national politics.
Those four men were Senators A.C. Shelton and John Tyson and Representatives C.M.A. Rogers and Alton Turner. Similar reactions have come from many of the Southern congressmen. Here is Alabama's junior senator, John Sparkman.
I have received many inquiries from newsmen as to what we Southern senators plan to do about the civil rights bills which have been sent to the Senate for consideration. In response, I wish to report that we Southerners have caucused already to work out our strategy against the new proposals. Even before our meeting, however, Senator Richard Russell and I served notice on the Senate leadership and the administration that we Southerners would vigorously oppose a so-called public accommodations law and the other measures being put forth by the Republicans and Northern Democratic advocates of unwise and unworkable legislation. We Southern Senators prepared to stand watch through nights and days of debate and to fight these measures to the bitter end.
Eugene Connor of Birmingham today became one of 25 persons seeking an appointment to the State Board of Pardon and Paroles. Connor was unseated last month, you'll remember, as Birmingham's police commissioner. The $10,000 a year state job becomes vacant July 1st. Connor applied formally for the post today by submitting a letter to the nominating board.
Walking, shopping. Walking, looking. Walking, shopping. I need some clothes. A garden hose. An awning man. A moving van. Stop. Let your fingers do the walking. Shop the Yellow Pages way.
Let your fingers do the walking through the Yellow Pages. Read the ads, learn the facts, find it fast.
Yes, let your fingers do the walking. You'll find everything for your car, from tires to ignition wires. Everything for your home, from roofing to weatherproofing. Everything for your family, from outdoor grills to vitamin pills. Everything for your business, from tools and dies to rental supplies. Check the ads under the heading you want for helpful information on brand names, product features, range of services, and store locations. Let your fingers do the walking. Shop the Yellow Pages way.
A Navy investigating board reported today that the engine room of the atomic-powered submarine Thresher suddenly flooded, causing her to sink and to finally collapse last April. The report said that the piping in one of the submarine's saltwater systems probably failed, and as the water sprayed into the Thresher, she sank to the ocean floor. Meantime, the U.S. Navy has decided to send the bathyscaphe Trieste to search for the Thresher, which was lost in the Atlantic last April 10th, with 129 aboard. These pictures of the Trieste were made during a test run. The Trieste is a 50-foot-long diving craft. A gondola suspended from its main structure holds two men and has two portholes for visual observation and photography far below the surface of the water. The Bath escape, brought over to the East Coast from California, is expected to make her first dive in search for the Thresher on Sunday at the earliest. The Navy was encouraged by recent photographs taken of some debris on the ocean bottom and then decided to send down the Trieste to search for the Thresher. A Florida congressman, Democratic Representative Paul Rogers, says he has been advised that 3,000 anti-Castro troops have landed in Cuba. Rogers says that he was informed they were launched from a country in Central America, were heavily armed, and were well-trained in techniques of guerrilla warfare. Rogers would not disclose the source of his information, but it says it has proved reliable in the immediate past. Earlier, the Cuba Revolutionary Council announced in Miami the landing of an unspecified number of commando infiltrators in Cuba. While it gave no figure, a spokesman said they would definitely liberate the island from communist rule. The head of the Federal Aviation Agency, Najib Halabi, says that the proposed supersonic transport plane will be in operation by the end of 1970. Halabi told the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics in Los Angeles why the government wants to help finance the planned 2,000-mile-per-hour craft, estimated to cost from $7 million to $1 billion to develop.
The economic feasibility of the supersonic transport is perhaps the most serious question. I think the technical problems are clearly surmountable. The economic problem of having the manufacturers design and build it and sell it at a profit, that is, having recovered their costs. And then the airliners operate it with a high load factor due to the speed and convenience and comfort that they can give the passengers. This is the tough problem. And the government, the taxpayers, ought to recover its development costs from the travelers through the airlines and the manufacturers. So we have to work out a unique kind of partnership between the aircraft manufacturers, the airline operators, and the government. Now, you might ask, why suddenly does the government have to massively assist an industry that hitherto has always had the customer, the airline, the manufacturer or producer, meet and agree in a private enterprise way? The answer is that the assets of the manufacturers are not sufficient for any one of them to go it alone.
You can see the shape of the future here in Chicago, the world's largest, most modern apartment house. Throughout, the builders have chosen gas, the energy of the future. Because gas is so economical, it will even warm the water in the year-round swimming pools. Inside, economical, trouble-free gas was chosen for central air conditioning. Gas heating and gas cooling are individually controlled in every room. Gas ranges were chosen because they give the finest in clean, cool, fast, automatic cooking. Plenty of hot water heated by gas. Yet all of these wonderful gas services are included in the moderate rent. This unique advantage is possible because gas costs so much less. Apartment or your own home, you'll live modern for less with gas. Energy of the future.
We gave you the wrong score on that Mets-Yankees game. It was 6-2 instead of 9-4, with the Mets winning, of course. And those games we gave you earlier were the only ones scheduled in the major leagues for this date. William Russell, the president of the U.S. Track and Field Federation, is visiting Montgomery with Cliff Harper, executive secretary of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Russell holds a similar position in California. Mr. Russell has helped to organize a track and field club for Montgomery, of which Alan McKean has been elected the president. As president of the U.S. Track and Field Federation, we sought his views on the squabble between his organization and the AAU. We've been hearing a whole lot about this conflict between your organization, the U.S. Track and Field Federation, and the Amateur Athletic Union, and I'm sure that a lot of people don't understand exactly what the differences are. Could you sort of enlighten us on that?
Well, the basic difference is that the educational groups, the high schools, the junior colleges, the colleges, and the universities, for many, many years had been members of the AAU. But they felt that they did not have adequate and just representation on the top governing council of the AAU, sought this representation, were denied it, and after repeated efforts to secure the representation which they felt they deserved, they withdrew their membership from the AAU and formed their own organization, which is known as the United States Track and Field Federation.
Well, President Kennedy appointed General Douglas MacArthur to sort of be the person who settles this dispute, and for a while it looked as though things might be settled, and then we had another flare-up or two. Do you think there's any possibility that the differences will be settled in any time in the near future?
Well, both parties are pledged for the period between now and the Olympic Games in '64 to settle their differences through arbitration under General MacArthur. And I'm certain that whatever dispute might arise, if the two parties aren't willing to get together and settle their differences, the general will certainly step in and order the parties to do it in one way or other. And whatever his decision is, both parties will abide. I'm sure of that.
Well, do you think the conflict is going to hamper our Olympic efforts in any way?
No, I don't. I can't see this in any way. To some degree, a competition between the two groups might stimulate each of them to do more than they would otherwise. But I'm certain that the United States Track and Field Federation and the dispute with the AAU will not harm our international competition. Most of the members of the international teams develop through the educational institutions in junior high school, college, and university. And the athletes that are representing our educational groups today are better than they've ever been before, and I'm certain that next year's group will be better than this year, and indefinitely. This has been the pattern. The athlete who is out of college is getting more attention now than he has in the past, and we hope that summer developmental programs, which are springing up all over the country, will make a greater effort to stimulate the postgraduate athlete and to keep him in competition for us.
Well, you more or less answered my next question, and that is, how will our Olympic team do in 1964? You think we'll come up with a real winning team?
I think our team will be much stronger than it's ever been before. The achievements of the boys who are participating in track and field this year are noteworthy, and there are younger boys who are coming up now who are so far superior to those who were there just a few years ago that there's no question in my mind at all about the future of our track and field competition in the country.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Russell. Pleasure having you with us.
Thank you very much, sir.
Finally tonight, extremely strong currents in the Panama City area's beaches today claim their fourth drowning victim, a Tennessee man, in as many days, that is, in 4 days. Lifeguards said they have rescued 150 persons from the beaches at Panama City during the last 4 days. Today's victim was identified as 40-year-old Ralph Coleman of Memphis, Tennessee. And that's Night Beat, the edition for June 20th, 19...